it's chillier over here.
Here we go. Now that's why I say it's my favorite.
Oh, that is beautiful.
A lot of these over here are unknowns.
That's gorgeous.
What the fun thing was, I didn't come the nights that a lot of the scents were collected at different times of days.
Yeah.
But they also came in at night.
Yeah.
And, you know, they talk about how
redolent it is at night.
Well,
yeah.
right. And
yeah.
not only that, but how the pollinators
yeah.
come out at night.
Yeah.
Well, you see some roaches during the day.
Yeah.
But he showed me pictures of some of these blooms when they were being pollinated. They were just covered with roaches.
Really?
It was like, he goes, his girlfriend was with them, and she goes, I couldn't even walk down the aisles. There was so many roaches.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
So do you think of the roaches, like roaches in their native environment pollinate there too? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So it was kind of an eye-opener.
Yeah.
And like I said, we have hundreds of geckos in here now.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately today is not a day that you probably see a lot. You usually see them running back and forth when it's sunny and hot.
Yeah.
But again, my favorite is that kind of a bloom where they all have the same parts.
Mm-hmm. But some are prettier than others.
But yeah.
This video is brought to you by Surfshark VPN. Surfshark is a virtual private network designed to keep your online identity safe through encrypting the info sent between your device and the internet. With a VPN, you could swap the virtual location of your device to another location. So why do you want to use that? All right, so let me tell you the many different ways that we've used our VPN. The first is finding the best rates for airlines. So when we were traveling more for Plant One On Me to film abroad, we would be scrappy and we would want to get the best rates for airlines like anybody would. But sometimes airlines will charge you a different rate depending on what country you're from. So you could use your VPN to actually find the best rates on the airlines, which is just great. Now, if you're traveling abroad, then you could also use it to switch your VPN back to your home country so you could get relevant news to you. Because if you're in a different country and you're online, oftentimes it will show you the news for that country, and maybe that's something that you don't want. Thirdly, if you're traveling abroad or even if you're traveling around the country and you're on a Wi-Fi connection, if you're concerned about your privacy and your searches, well then VPN will actually help secure that. Lastly, the US has no great gardening shows, but you know who does? The UK. So if you use your VPN, you could switch up your location to the UK and access some of those great gardening shows. And most importantly, Surfshark does not monitor, track, or store what you do online, which is more than I could say for most sites these days. So if you want to give it a go, just head over to Surfshark and enter the promo code PLANT1ONME for 83% off and 3 extra months free. Once you get it, you can use it across an unlimited number of devices, and if you don't dig it, then don't worry, they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So check out the link in the description below if you're interested in more information.
So I'm here with Emily. I'm going to let you do your own introduction, but we just briefly walked into an Aroid greenhouse. This is something that's not open to the public, right?
Right.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got started here, and what we're about to see.
Yeah, I'm Emily Coletti. I'm the curator of the Aroid collection and a few other research plant material that has gathered in the greenhouses over the past, about 30 years? Yeah, so I've been here for the past 20 years.
Wow.
Taking care of the collection, which is a good part of Tom Croat, Dr. Tom Croat, who is the researcher, the collector, basically the world's expert on the Araceae family. So basically these 3 greenhouses here house most of the Aroid collection, because again there's some on grounds and there's also some in the climatrons.
How have you seen it changed over the last 20 years that you've been here?
Basically, we've assigned them all accession numbers. So when I first came in the early 2000s, they were all just basically categorized and filed under their collection numbers. In about 2011, we started to accession them into the live collection. So like every other plant material that's here on the garden, they get an accession number and a tag. So that was a big change, because not only did they get an accession number, but the accession number also relates to a different database. So we have Tropicos, which the researchers generally work with, and then we have the LCMS, which is a Living Collections Material System. and everything is mapped out where it is, and then its history and where it came from.
And is
all
that
good stuff.
specifically for the Missouri Botanic Gardens, or is
Yes.
that, okay, because I know classifying your plants, every botanic garden seems to have their own little way about doing it.
Right.
And it's a challenge.
The LCMS, though, does attach itself
Okay.
to Tropicos.
Okay.
And also will link itself to some of the other
Okay.
gardens also, as well as does Tropicos. So
Yeah.
you can find information from the other gardens if they share different information.
So I guess we're about to go see this, but I'm looking at it now and I'm like, oh my God, so overwhelming. What happens when he finds a new plant? How do you even jostle them around from place to place?
Okay, well, basically, it's a living library.
Yeah.
It's like a zoo of plants, but of course, it's a botanical garden. So that's how I always associate for people to understand. So basically, they're divided up into, of course, the genera that it is, then lined up in order on like shelving a book as to genus, species. So the species starting with the A, then B, and then
So alphabetical order.
And then the unknowns, the unknown species, then are then lined up according to collector number. So then that's how it goes. So then you can pretty much find it without going to the database. You can find the plant just by knowing what section it is. So basically, I mean, it's really pretty simple once you get the hang of it, but the first one or two times you might need me to guide you to where everything is. The Cardiolontium are in here. So the velvety leafed section, basically, so you can see on
Okay,
these.
so that's a section altogether because of the morphological features of it.
Right, and most of them it is morphological features. Like, so as you can see, all these blooms here, they're just so beautiful, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
So they all Aroids have inflorescences that have the spadix and then the spathe. Now, some of them are much more lovely to look at. Others, like these here, are, a lot of them are like crystallinum and things of that nature. But their flowers aren't as nice to look at as the leaves are. When the Cardiolontium dry, they tend to dry green instead of brown, so that's one of their characteristics.
Okay.
So one of the things that I've learned is that when you are naming a species or identifying a species, first of all, you have to, in identifying it, you have to have an inflorescence, and then the way it dries also is a classifying feature.
Interesting.
Color or whatever. So you get the different parts off of it, but you'll get that all from Dr. Croat. So these all have either velvety or a matte kind of, these are more matte than they are velvety. But when I do the abbreviations on the back of my tags, each plant has a tag. So it's got collection number, Anthurium crystallinum, and so the genus and the species, and then on the back of it, it just has a brief history of what I've done. And each one, I always put the section they're in, so when I'm going to put it away, I know what section to put it in. And that Cardiolontium, that's the VEL is velvet, so that's our abbreviation for that. I don't know what other institutions do, but that's what we
Right.
do. So then I have the most recent information on the plant and then try to keep it with it. But then the other thing we've always done is we always have a second identification in the pot in case you lose one. Now these are the ones that started to come after 2011. But see, this here is the accession number then. And then it's got accession number, and the -2 means there's two of, this is the second specimen of that particular accession.
Okay.
And then we've tried over the years to make sure each of the tags have what we here in the greenhouse want them to have on it.
And within each section, so this is the velvet section, you will have them in somewhat alphabetical order?
Right, so
by
it's-
species.
It starts back in the back there.
Yeah.
It goes A to C, and then it goes, I think it starts D on this,
Yeah.
and then it comes all the way down to P, I thought. No, so, yeah, so they start generally, but not always, because even though I've been here for close to 20 years,
yeah.
I haven't redone all of the way that it was prior to when I got here.
Right.
So it would be like rearranging a library
Yeah.
and
Trying
from
to-
start to finish and try to juggle everything.
Except books are almost, even though books are cumbersome, plants are even more cumbersome to change around,
Right. So
especially when
sometimes,
they're large.
right. So we try to get them cut back. The thing is with this collection this size, and with me taking just me basically taking care of it, is the fact that you basically have to get to the ones that need you before you can like start like, okay, I'm going to repot this whole bench today.
Right.
So I don't have that luxury so much. I have more of a need than going to the ones that need it before I
Yeah.
go to something else.
Two questions that just popped to mind right now is, I mean, you have exquisite under the bench plants that you probably didn't mean to have there.
Well,
And then-
actually, some of them are and some of them aren't.
Okay.
Now, some of the philodendrons that are under here, most of the
Yeah.
philodendrons that are trailers
Yeah.
will go under there.
Is that like a gloriosum? or
Yeah,
something?
that's either a gloriosum or a
luxury.
mamie or
Okay.
one of those, like,
Okay.
they're very similar looking.
Okay.
So, yeah, so they tend to trail,
Yeah.
and they don't want to stay in their pots.
yeah.
And so I purposely put them under there.
And then the other question I have is just cross-pollination. It must happen a lot here.
Well, I don't have the capacity to collect all of the berries all of the time. So the interesting thing is that, and again, it's back, and Tom will probably mention this also, is in the Pachinariums in another greenhouse. There was a study done that he had one of a former teacher come in and do a bunch of pollinations, just try to pollinate this against this, and he discovered that South American species will not cross-pollinate with Central American species. So the divide is there, even within genetics also. So we may have some cross-pollination. The only problem that comes in is if we let the berries fall and they start to germinate in the pots. But a project that we're not currently doing a lot of germinating.
Yeah, okay.
There's 4 benches in here. These are all of these are all the Cardiolontiums.
Okay.
And as you can see, as you go by, you can see some prettier spadixes, the yellow as opposed to the green.
Yeah.
Sagittatum, they're a little bit picky. As you can see on this, they tend to, we do not, in here, in the Climatron they use O water, but in here we use city water. So the only thing, and we have very high pH with our city water, but the only way we can combat that is I use a low 100 parts per million fertilizer pretty much year round.
Okay.
So it brings the pH more in level. but we also have a lot of chlorine, chloride and fluoride in our water system.
It gets into the tips. And,
so I think that's what that is.
Yeah.
That's probably a
Sagittatum again, right?
Yeah, there's a number of Sagittatum in here. Oh, the new leaves are just awesome.
Gorgeous.
It's just that after a while the water
takes their toll on them. It's a huge undertaking because you have all these plants. You're kind of, I would imagine you'd have to treat them kind of similarly to one another, as opposed to like, okay, you're a little finicky, like you get this. No, we're all going to give you the same water. You know, you can't possibly do that. It's just one person.
Right.
You imagine.
So we have these first two benches, and then a bench over on the other side. There are our
I love this. I don't know if we could just feature this. So wide. It's like a cabbagey.
You can see a lot of different colors of flags in here.
Yeah.
The purple ones generally have the flowers have been collected and the scent has been collected.
Oh, interesting.
So we had a gentleman from Vienna come in and collected a lot of scents.
Okay.
So each of our flags has a different meaning. Each of our tags in our pot have a different meaning. And the winters also take their toll, even though this is my coolest house and always has been over the years. I moved them in here, and there's several sections that I've had to move from various areas just to see where they fit the best. Like this section here, these are Adelanimas and Homalaminas.
A lot of those got reclassified, right?
Right.
Adelaninas are now like
they used to all be I think they were some of them were Adelanimas, and then they got classified as Homalaminas, and then they got reclassified. They got split back again.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of them on the end here. These are Homalaminas, and they do really well.
This one's doing exquisite.
So any of them that come from the New World are the Adelanimas.
Okay.
And any of them that come from like Asia are Homalaminas.
Okay. Well, it's very interesting to see. You could compare, like you said, this is a cooler greenhouse, and you immediately see, especially because they're, in their little sections, you immediately see which ones do better than the others. So you can make you just, in a house or wherever, if you have one or two species, you just wouldn't be able to see it and get that big picture in your head.
Well, the funny thing is, when I came, these were in one of the hottest places in the greenhouse, and they just weren't thriving at all.
Yeah.
And I moved them, well, they're actually at the top of the stairs, where we'll see in a little bit, but then I moved them down into the collection in another place, and they still weren't thriving. And I'm like, okay. And this greenhouse housed a lot of the non-Aroids, but as the years went by and a lot of those grad students were leaving and their collections were leaving also, then I had a little bit of space, and that's why this is in the middle of the Cardiolonchums, because they got moved in here before the Cardiolonchums did.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm not moving this whole bench. We're just going to have a mini section in the middle of the Cardiolonchum. So anyway,
amazing.
But they have done very well in here.
Yeah.
But they like that cooler temperature, and they like a lot of water. So they, in the summer, they get watered every day. And even if they seem to be wet, they tend to still wilt if you haven't watered them.
Okay.
You'll leave and they look perfectly fine, but you'll get here in the morning and they're all wilted.
Well, something to also note is that you plant almost exclusively in terracotta, right?
That's an interesting point. Yeah, because most growers I know don't. Most growers and a lot of collectors always do it in plastic. But if you notice the different sizes of the plants on the same area, because I pot them according to the size of the plant, so they're not all in the same size planters. So this way they're able to dry out, and I want them to dry out as opposed to stay moist. I have a better success with them being grown tighter as opposed to having a lot of leg room, which is interesting because I read something the other day on the International Aroid Society website. They were discussing how people should plant them, give them more room. But again, I'm getting
You're like, I
sidetracked.
don't have any more room.
But right.
And you look at it and you're like, there's no way I'm going to repot all of these.
But since you have all these different sizes
Yeah.
and you basically water them pretty much at the same time on a schedule, or you just need to have the weight because a lot of these get very top heavy. So you need the weight of the terracotta,
Right. So it
and you
doesn't
also
pop.
need it to be able to dry out.
Now, another question I have is you have so many of these plants. How do you deal with an insurrection of like mealybugs or aphids or whatever it might be?
The last, I don't even know how many years now,
Yeah.
we've done a real good integrated pest management where we basically use mostly
beneficial
insects. So I actually have on my potting bench out there all of the different ones that we use at various times of the year.
Oh, that'll be kind of interesting to see. Yeah.
But we release them on a weekly basis. In fact, today's Tuesday, so we should be getting some in. And depending on the day length and some of the other factors, some of them only get released very periodically in the late spring and in the early fall. But they give it to us in a bottle as opposed to these little pouches.
Right, that you usually hang or stick
Right,
on.
because
Yeah.
what we had problems with that because we'd put them out before we'd leave in the day,
Yeah.
and the roaches would come up and eat the packages. So they would actually eat the bugs before
Yeah.
they would even be able to get
disperse,
out.
yeah,
Disperse.
yeah.
So we had that problem.
Well, let's go see some more plants. I know people are probably chomping at the bit to go. I just don't even know where to start. I feel like we're only picking the ones at the ends. Because
Well, this one actually
exquisite.
is a hybrid.
Okay.
So a lot of times those hybrids will basically take on one of the parents as opposed to the other. Again, not grown for the inflorescence for sure, but so this is our last bench with the Cardiolontium, and
So do you know what this is a hybrid of, or is it more like Anthurium spa?
well, it's
Species.
the tags usually
it
will.
says Anthurium hybrid, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
so.
gorgeous, though. I mean, did you ever think about like, oh, maybe your botanic garden, so this is separate, but you could say, oh, this is Anthurium mobot in a cultivar, and then you.
That would be a good question for
Yeah,
Tom. I mean,
okay.
I do have one of my plants, not necessarily my favorite, but
Yeah.
there is a Anthurium Colettianum, so
Yeah.
named after me.
Oh, that's so fun.
So you just have to know the taxonomist, I guess. No.
Yeah.
He was very grateful for all the work I do. In
Yeah,
here.
of course.
So he, again, but you can, again, that one down back behind you, and some of these down here are hybrids.
Yeah.
Not hybrids, but spas are unknown.
Yeah.
Some of them aren't, some of them are known. But you have the awesome, what you think about, like the crystallinums and then such kind of leaves, and then you have these that are just totally velvety.
Yeah.
Which are, again, they're all in the same sections.
But these are all hybrids? This whole thing is a hybrid?
No.
Or
There's
just some
only
of
a
these?
couple of
Okay.
hybrids at the end are.
This looks like a Dioscorea or something like that. What is this?
Yeah, we've. It's just one of those leftover research.
Oh, yeah, it's everywhere,
The fence
actually.
apples that are growing in here,
Oh, look at the berries on this.
and
Wow.
they're down.
Where did you go, Emily?
Yeah, the Dioscorea. There's a few. There's a few, and then every year I vow to control the vines, and they just totally get out of hand.
Look at how beautiful this is.
Yeah, those flower and berry very easily.
Okay.
And again, this is another section in here, and it's a small section.
And what section is this? Ones that have finger-like ones, or?
Well, this is interesting because this particular section has been separated from the dactyophyllums.
Oh. This is Anthurium lancetalense, or lancetalense.
And we have, like I said, several of these, but they have been totally. And I'll have to look up that section.
The fruit of the Dioscorea. It's so confusing. You look up and you're like, what is that? And you're like, okay, that's another plant.
This is an
Amorphophallus.
Amorphophallus, and this is a titanum.
Do you think it'll bloom this year?
This one, no, we had a bloom earlier this
Okay.
year, and actually, here's the pot that it was in with the 3 red flags.
Oh,
and
yeah.
again, like I said, the flags. Red means do not water, and so
Okay.
I have 3 of them in there. So
Right.
it means don't you dare water.
Absolutely.
So, and then there's just a few of our, at the back of that bench is our
The other Amorphophallus.
of the titanum.
Yeah.
On there. Just we have just one big remaining tuber, and that one, before it bloomed, was 161 pounds. So those are coming up in the future, and a lot of these are kind of just a hodgepodge.
Yeah, I was going to say there's syngoniums here, there's philodendrons, there's this really interesting Anthurium. It has no species name, but it looks like a Schefflera almost.
Right, and those are the dactyophyllums.
Okay.
Yeah, and what happens sometimes is that's why we like to have these tags that we have 2 in a tag, and this one's just a spud, doesn't have a species on it, and these actually, the dactyophyllums are so easy to propagate, it's almost crazy.
That's so good to know.
What happens is, like,
This is a Rhaphidophora pipla. Never even seen that before. That's incredible.
and there's a couple of the Rhaphidophores that
Yeah.
they actually love to stick onto the wall even. So it's just a matter of time getting them all moved out of here. Like on this bench and that bench are all things I repotted, and I found that I like to keep plants out of the collection until they've kind of settled into their pots.
Right.
So depending on the plant, and some of them have been here for a while, at least 2 weeks, if not longer. That's funny thing is, I have the top of the spadix of the flowers still laying on the table.
I was just going to point out this shape. This leaf shape is.
Oh, the 3-lobe. That's
Exquisite.
See, I'm not real good at pronouncing all of the names, but it's basically the 3 lobes.
Subsignatum. It's this 3-lobe is gorgeous. And then what is that one behind Sonder that has like a bird's nest shape? It's really thick leaves.
This particular plant itself, and it's got all kinds of fun stuff on it, is Anthurium crassulaminum. These are some of our first tags that we did in the beginning.
This looks like it could be, I don't know if you've had trouble with this, but this looks like, because it's just so cardboard-like, it looks like it would be a very easy house plant, but I could be mistaken.
I don't know how many of the pachinariums are actually house plants. I really don't know. I know that about 90% of all houseplants come out of the Araceae.
Yeah.
I just don't know how many of the pachinariums have come out, because that's one of Tom's sections that he's done a lot with that, and the porphyes. I think he likes these. Like, and they are. A pachinarium is the bird's nest type anyway. So it's one of the 20 or so sections of Anthuriums. This was just repotted, and it's just waiting to go back.
Yeah.
So it's just, and again, it's got a few fun tags on it with like the type, the red flags. Actually have within the complex have several meanings. This on here it's a type, and I always write type. So that's the one that species was described from.
Right.
And so like the pink tags usually means, okay, I need to either collect something from it for Tom as a voucher, or I have to take it to him, and so he can describe the plant and go from there. this is just goes on the Arcasia bed. It's actually a xanthosoma. So you got your Alocasia, your Colocasia, your xanthosomas. They're all very hard to just differentiate between each of them.
Do sometimes you just don't even know until you get the inflorescence, or?
Well, between from what I understand on the Alocasia and the Colocasias, it all has to. The only difference is in their pistils or in the flower, and so you really don't see that. You have to kind of be more a taxonomist in order to see it. Some of the differences are just that fine.
This looks like the Monstera Peru that has never been identified before. No, this is Partita.
That's actually it looks very similar to the radicans, Anthurium radicans, but that's actually a Monstera.
See, and I look at it and it reminds me of the Monstera. I don't know if you know the Monstera Peru. It's never been given a species name.
Oh, okay.
It's just been given a cultivar name, and that looks very similar. And this
Spathiphyllum.
is Anthurium Croatii, right?
Yes. That one I think is also got a tag of Croatii, but they did a DNA analysis on it and said that one's not a Croatii.
Wow.
So the Monica, who you'll talk,
this one's literally popping out of its.
Those tend to do that. Yeah. The Dactyophyllums tend to. It's kind of interesting. There's a couple of different genera that will do that. And the Dactyophyllum, that section, they tend to root very well and very aggressively. And sometimes they'll come out of their pots like that, and then you'll remove about 3 foot of actual root. Now,
the Croatii, does it eventually get a leaf like this?
No. That's a whole different. That one is a clavigerum, I think. Yeah, it's a clavigerum. A very interesting shape to each one of their leaflets.
Yeah.
Which is very, very identifying for them. Yeah, don't those just blow you away?
This one says Philodendron Beatriceae, but it almost looks like a luxurians or something, or a gloriosum. Esque, you know?
Right. So that one should most likely be put on the floor.
Right.
But then they tend to, like you were walking, they like to grow out, they like to grow more towards the light.
Yeah.
Even though they do like being underneath because they like to trail, but any other plants, they grow towards the light.
I love the under the bench plants. I feel like that's where a lot of the excitement lives. You forget about them, and then you're like, you know.
They do really well under there, and they are a hidden treasure for sure.
Okay, and this long form one, it says it was decapitated.
Oh, you see? Oh, I don't think you saw it. One of our geckos. We also help. We help with our roach problem with geckos. So there's literally probably around 400 geckos in here. We do use the geckos in the climatron and in the orchid range and in here.
So this one has a note that says it was decapitated. What does that mean?
So it probably fell off a bench.
Okay.
And the top broke off.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I like to say why that exists. You know? Why did I repot it? Why did I start a new one?
Okay.
I mean, it's not all the time because it's overgrown, even though I'll say, oh, it's leggy. No, this one got decapitated.
I knocked it over.
I knocked it over. It doesn't necessarily mean I knocked it over.
Right.
Sometimes we've also had raccoons in here. So
really,
raccoons are not our friends in a greenhouse.
Okay.
So they will knock plants over. Along with the fact that we were talking about the terracotta before.
Yeah.
Even with that extra heavy, when they get really tall, they get top heavy, and one will fall, and then it's a domino effect, and it knocks everything else off. Sclerogerum, however you say that.
Wait, the Spathiphyllum, or is this different?
It's that's the Schmidtite.
Where does
This one's
come
coming from Well, I know it's the same
It's this
plant
one.
here.
This one right here.
And it's square.
Spathiphyllum, right?
Yeah, there you go. You can say these great. I've never been, but yeah, I love these. Are off lovely. I just broke the sleeve, but and here is.
You're like, I just broke the sleeve.
here's the tight inflorescence.
This is going into the herbarium specimen.
So a lot of times with the philodendrons are actually my favorite of the aroid.
Oh, why is that?
Aroid flowers.
Okay, it's for flowers. Okay.
Because they're like on this one, this is how tight the flowers are.
Yeah.
But they're just so. Oh, I don't know. They're all so tight, and then it may only open at night.
Yeah.
And it may only open for a day. And again, getting the stories about the inflorescences from Tom is much more exciting than getting the stories from me. But I mean, they're so tight that, I mean, I'm having trouble even opening it up.
Yeah.
So you're just like, and so there's, so that's the spathe.
Yeah.
That's totally covered, and so now we're uncovering the spadix. So, but they're, I don't know, they're just cooler. I'm just trying to see.
It's another Anthurium. It seems like the Anthuriums are all the ones in bloom. Oh, here we go.
So here's one that's already bloomed, so it's actually beyond.
Yeah.
So it's opened already.
Yeah.
But so it's not so exciting there, but here's the flowers down here.
Yeah.
And then the top here is just pseudo flowers but and again it's really kind of neat when you think about it.
Some of them get like really red colors and the spathe and everything, and like really pretty colorations.
Hopefully we can find some as we go through. This again, some of these plants get set here to get out of the way, and then we're going to put them away, and then they wind up taking over that spot. That was one of them, that philodendron there. So, and that's another philodendron. So they have all different shapes
right.
to
So this one's parvulobum.
Well, it
looks like it.
Right.
Because that's what the CF means. Yeah.
Right. We don't always put an unpublished name. Well, we'll put it on the tag, but we won't put it in the database.
Right. Okay.
As that, but the CF just means it looks like that particular.
Now, would this go into to get a definitive identification on it to eventually put it into the database? Would you wait until it flowers, or would you have to do genetic analysis on it?
No, that's taxonomic.
Taxonomist, yeah.
You would just have to produce, get it to bloom,
okay,
and then voucher it.
Yeah, this one's unique in the sense that it really droops down, and then it has these like really interesting petioles, like just kind of covered up like this, like almost like boots. And then that one's Philodendron ushanum, French Guiana too.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's again. So we usually want to put the location where it comes from.
Yeah.
And so over the years, we've actually modified the way we do these, and that we will put also, because it's very important for our identification purposes to have. So we'll also on these, not only on the white labels, we like to have this, so that if there is a taxonomist in here looking at this label, they'll at least know where it came from. So again, when you're using some of the other identifying,
I feel like when the new leaf is coming out, I want it to be like kind of perfect. It's getting crushed a little bit. It's so funny. You feel, I guess, maybe less sympathetic when you have so much of them, you know?
It's really hard for me to do a lot of cutting, you know, getting rid of different things. But so again, here's another beautiful. Now this a cordate shaped Anthurium.
Yeah.
but it's got beautiful spathe and spadix. So,
And sometimes plants, like when I think about in the horticultural world, sometimes in the case of anthuriums, they're chosen for their spathes, right? Spadix and spathes, and sometimes they're just chosen for their, leaves. So you have to make a decision when you're actually like
some of them,
because it could be a cut flower, or it could be a potted plant.
And Hawaii is its biggest export is, I guess it's the andreanum.
The andreanums are the cut flowers,
right? And you see those in all kinds of arrangements. And as a potted plant too.
Yeah.
So,
but sometimes the ones that are chosen for the beautiful cut flowers have really scraggly looking like growth forms and like weird leaves and everything, and you wouldn't necessarily grow it as a potted plant. So it's kind of an interesting decision that you have to make.
We'll be continuing our tour of the Aroid greenhouses with Emily at the Missouri Botanical Gardens in the next video, so be sure to stay tuned. And if you enjoy field trips like this, be sure to let us know in the comments below. And if you're coming back to these videos on a regular basis and you haven't yet subscribed, consider supporting the channel that way, as it gives us more opportunities to create long-form botanical content of plants and the people who love them. In the meantime, you could check out our online houseplant courses and offerings like the 125 Houseplant Care Spreadsheet, Troubleshoot Your Houseplants, Houseplant Basics, and the Houseplant Masterclass. Learn more over at homesteadbrooklyn.com.